Broadcasting from the basement of La Penta, it's WICR.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the basement of La Penta. Matt Lasella, Martino Puccio here with you. Final segment of the day for the big dance. So, getting down to it, Tom Thibodeau hired as head coach and president of basketball operations for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He actually started out. Did you see that throwback picture of him?
No.
Oh, you haven't? When
I
he had
haven't.
hair and he was really skinny,
Oh, maybe
working
I
in
did
Minnesota.
see it. Yeah, I think
and the
I did
caption
see it.
said, "The prodigal son returns."
Okay, I think I might have seen it actually.
Hilarious. I never knew Tom Thibodeau was skinny. Because he used
I
to
didn't-
coach on the Celtics with the Doc Rivers staff. It was a
Okay.
great staff over there when they were winning those titles. But yeah. So anyways, he returns over there. I'm a little skeptical of giving him that much power.
I tend to agree. We see what happens when
Doc Rivers, Jason Kidd, Budenholzer are the people I can think of, and I think those are the only people that are running, our head coach and player of basketball operations with their current franchise.
right, and it's Budenholzer worked for a year, and then this year it kind of fell off.
Korver did not have that amazing shooting
Right.
that he had the year before. They've had injuries.
Okay, right.
They did make it to the conference finals. I give them that. They're up 2-0 on the Celtics right now. They're really playing them well. I think Budenholzer is really smart, really good coach. My whole thing is, I think certain people they don't make good deals. Doc and the Clippers are playing great because that roster was there before Doc got there. So Doc really didn't change much up. I think maybe Jamal Crawford was one of the few additions they had
and
there.
Austin Rivers getting plugged into
And
25 minutes a night.
And I mean he's doing okay, but he isn't.
But it's extended
it's
time.
kind of strange.
It's not efficient.
It's very strange to be honest, seeing that still. So anyways, going back to Tom, there's rumors he wants to hire a guy from San Antonio as the GM. I'm okay with that as long as you got to let him scout. They got to confer together because Tom's number one priority has to be developing that core and creating this sort of team that's supposed to run the whole league in a couple of years. And they really, really do have the potential to do that, especially with the top 10 pick they have this year, potentially top 5 if it stays where it is. So there are some stuff that they might need to consider, possibly selling high on Levine if they don't think he's going to improve that much. Try and deal that pick for a current star. Maybe even signing a Pau Gasol, because Pau's going to be a free agent.
Bring in some veteran leadership.
Veteran leadership.
That's familiar with Thibodeau.
I think even Amir Johnson, if Amir Johnson left, I've said and there's real possibilities that Minnesota can sign guys because we saw Greg Monroe ditch some big time free agency places and he went right to Milwaukee.
Right.
Okay, it's a different situation with Kidd and you got the Greek Freak and Jabari over there, but it's not a foregone conclusion that they can land a free agent guy. But I think they have some guys that are good, but I don't think they should stick them out in the court. Like Rubio, I think Rubio's got to go. They got to find a way to get rid of Rubio. Find him a home somewhere else.
Package him with the draft pick, or package him with Levine.
My idea was package maybe him, Levine, or the top 5 pick. I think that's a little much for Jimmy Butler. I don't think Jimmy Butler is that good.
No.
To give up Levine because Levine did make
Levine and Rubio then
No.
Chicago doesn't make that deal.
I do Rubio, the top 5 pick.
Chicago has no need for Rubio
pick
with
next
Derrick
year.
Unless you move Rose.
How confident are you in Rose staying that healthy? Is it a 3-team deal you can make?
Well, that would
teams
presumably
need point guards. Knicks
right.
maybe.
Yeah, and Melo goes to the Bulls.
Melo finally goes to the Bulls.
And Rubio comes over
but
with
there's
Gasol.
but there's no Jimmy Butler there, so why would he want to waive that clause? Gasol's on the way out. Butler, there's friction in the locker room.
Or if Gasol stayed,
friction in the locker room with Hoiberg.
Butler would have to stay there. A 3-team doesn't work with the Knicks, at least not if Butler's involved.
But it's gonna kind of be difficult because of Rubio. I think they should just take whatever they can get, first round picks or something from him. I don't think.
Well,
Rubio,
I think having Thibodeau and having a young core is, to try at least to trade him for a mid first rounder. There's nothing. I mean, you could find gold in the mid first round. I think with the way they're hoping to develop the young talent, that might be the go-to move.
And Tom is hired a little late now.
Right.
You know, we're towards the end of April, but this whole draft process is a longer decision kind of thing because a lot of the names that have been declared right now, they're not necessarily going to be there in a couple weeks.
Right.
Because a lot can be going back. But I think it's going to be a little difficult because this roster needs to get set and ready to go. And one of the more underrated things about the Oklahoma City Thunder, who they're compared to, obviously, they're coming up with a great young talented core, and a good young head coach, is that they still need to draft well. OKC was still drafting well, you know.
Right.
Reggie Jackson
That's
was
why
a
they're
good
still
pick.
where they are.
Steven Adams was a great pick. Even Cameron Payne. These are all really good picks, and they're still drafting well. You really got to see how Tom Thibodeau does. As great as a coach as he can be, it doesn't mean anything.
You can't blow it in the draft.
MJ?
Or you throw away
terrible owner. Phil Jackson too.
You throw away what you've been working on, you know, if you don't draft well. Not to say obviously you purposely draft well, but you know,
They also got to figure out the shooting guard situation. Do you slide Wiggins over to the 3? I think you consider it. Wiggins is so athletic, he can play the 3 and defend his position, and he plays as a slasher.
Well, he does play as a slasher, but I think that is going to depend well, obviously it depends if Levine leaves. Because if Levine leaves, presumably you're getting a better 2.
I don't think they'll be making any deals draft night. I think they really got to go with their young core that they have. They're not going to select a big man. Big man really doesn't make much sense right now in the draft.
Did they get Pekovic back? I know he was hurt.
Pekovic did come back, I think, towards the end of the year. They hit 30 wins.
Banger down low.
30 wins is a great improvement. With with Karl Towns as a rookie, Wiggins is just a sophomore, and the way Levine improved, I mean, that's something to be said, especially, I mean, I know Sam Mitchell is gone now, but he did a solid enough job on short notice after Flip passed. And I think they're really heading in the right direction. I really do think they have a shot within the next 5 years to really, I think they could start contending in a title within 3 years.
So, put on your GM hat. You're Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Say you get the 5.
Yes.
Obviously, it's not a big man. It's not
Mhm.
Bender because he likely will be gone anyway. You have Jamal is there.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Dunn is around.
Mm-hmm.
Jaylen Brown is around.
Mm.
Unless Buddy is still there, but I don't think he will be. I think Boston takes him if
I
he's
think
there.
Boston's taking him.
Who do you go Jaylen Brown and then you can keep Wiggins
No.
at the 2? Brown
I don't
goes
go
3.
Jaylen Brown.
So you don't need
Too-
you don't want 2
Too
slashers.
similar to all their guys.
So you
in
need a
there.
shooter.
You do need a shooter.
So
you
you
need
need-
a
so you
shooter.
need
in
Jamal
a
Murray.
position.
And Jamal goes into the 2.
Or they need a
and
playmaker.
Then you
Levine
could slide.
really did improve with 3-point shooting.
Yeah, but does he become a starter or does he stay your 6th man? Because this is what you got to think about. Jamal Murray can fill that role as the 6th man.
Zach
Or
Levine,
you can go either way with
this
them.
is the way they got to look at it. I mean, there's situations that happen with Ginobili too. Great player at his time, but he had to come off the bench. It was for the better of the team.
Right.
Same thing with James Harden
I think
and OKC.
that team they'll clash too much if Levine and Wiggins
I
and
know.
Towns are trying to all have and whatever point guard comes in. If it's a pack,
OKC
or,
just
you know,
handled it horribly. They did the worst possible scenario in handle. They could have gotten their money around.
is it or let's
They gave too much money to Ibaka. They could have drafted
they
well enough
did
to
give
get
too much
solid
money
big men.
to Ibaka, but is it necessarily that they handled it too bad, or is it possible that they have
They love playing together.
too much talent?
No, I
Too
think
many-
you gotta,
too
you
much
gotta know how
talent
to-
that needs the
I
ball in there.
think-
Now I know it's different now than it was then, but you had Westbrook, you
yeah,
had Harden,
Westbrook and
you had
Harden
Durant.
are really ball dominant
And
players.
Durant. You don't need-
Durant could have played with either.
Durant could have played with either.
Durant
but
could
to
play
have,
with anyone.
I mean, obviously Harden wasn't James Harden now, so it's a little different. But they
Well,
also
you
had
could,
their
you could
stretch
tell. You
of
could
Jeff
tell.
Green,
Well, you could tell.
Kevin Martin.
Well, you could tell what James was going to be. You really saw it. It was
Right.
coming on. He just disappeared in the finals. He was really playing great. He was the X factor on that playoff run. Russ wasn't really where he was at now. Who knows? It's to say they were holding each other back, but there were similar players.
If they're too similar, where the rest of the team doesn't.
But that's
get
why
the
I'm
ball.
saying Jaylen Brown's not the right pick.
Right, because you don't need the double slasher.
And I don't think Zach is that similar to Wiggins. Also, they're just great athletes.
Yeah.
The play style's a little different. Levine isn't that much of a slasher as everyone thinks he is. Levine is really a trailer kind of guy, and he pulls up a lot for threes.
Right.
Whereas Wiggins, he's trying to really improve everywhere, and you even saw it when he faced Kobe in the Lakers. He did the turnaround jumper on him.
Right.
He pulled a Kobe move.
Now, can you foresee Wiggins or not Wiggins? Excuse me, Levine starting then, or do you try to get the starting two, but either Butler or going to the draft? Is Levine better off staying as the sixth man?
Well, my thing here is you got to get him to buy in. First of all, they know who Tom is. They know how successful of a run he had in Chicago. If it wasn't for injuries, outside shot, they could have won the title one year.
Right.
Okay? If Rose is healthy and they're all playing like top level, they could have gone to the finals last year.
Yeah.
My thing is, what are you gonna do? Do you care more about winning, or do you care more about a James Harden situation? Because you could actually show them the situation over there, and be like, hey, look. You could either be like the Spurs, or we could be like OKC. And this is a big thing too. If OKC ends up splitting up, with like the Durant and like Westbrook ends up staying, and Durant leaves, okay, and they're really just like the failure to win a championship continues, which I think it's gonna. You look at it and you say, okay, what's the big picture here? Is it just like having one of the more talented teams in the league and going to try and win and force it with our talent? Or we're going to have to sacrifice and do what we need to do to win? Because even the Heat Big Three had to sacrifice a lot. Okay? Same thing, but they were organized pretty well. They kind of went well together. Like LeBron and D-Wade, depending. LeBron had once he went to the 4,
Right.
It worked out.
Right.
But I really think for now, you could be like, hey, Zach, look. You got it. The best thing you can do is come off the bench for us. And even then, you could even look over to Boston too, because Isaiah Thomas was coming off the bench. But if the team is playing better a certain way, then you start Levine. And you could bring off Chris Dunn off the bench. That's not a big deal. Chris Dunn comes off.
I think draft night is obviously the fire starter, and that's when you'll really see what Minnesota's going to do, but they're sitting in a good spot. They're going to get a guard.
I think you
presumably the guard they need.
And
they're sitting in a great spot.
Underrated thing about basketball too is draft is before free agency. It's not
Right.
like football. Football is free agency, then the draft. I don't like that.
It doesn't make much sense. Now you have the draft. You can figure out. Okay, we drafted
it's more
this.
difficult. Yeah.
This is what we need, and now
this
let's
is
go
where
out
we
and
can
get
go. And like also with signings,
Right.
you don't know where Kevin Durant's going.
Of course.
It changes the whole dynamic of a league if one of the best top 5 players in the league goes to a different team or even a different conference. If Kevin Durant leaves the Western Conference
and
he goes
to Washington,
if he goes to Washington, Boston's a dark horse, or wherever else he goes, Like, what do? You got to strike when the iron's hot. You take the best player available, maybe make a good free agent signing or two, people that are similar with Thibodeau, okay? Because Powell, that's a real consideration because he did play under Tibbs back in Chicago last year. So there's real possibilities coming out of there. And I just think Tom really has to hit a home run and play it smart and just take the player. And if he let people come to him with offers. I don't think he should be going anywhere to offers and offering up guys.
No, let it come to you because you're sitting in the draft spot and
he's in the driver's seat.
And you have 2 potential Hall of Famers on your team already.
Mm-hmm. And
So
you don't know what you're getting in the draft too, because you know what, the balls can go up front.
Of course.
You never know.
What?
And then
Can you imagine Minnesota lands 1?
Simmons. Take Simmons.
Or 2? And they get
Simmons
Ingram?
is perfect. I don't think Ingram will work. Just because the whole the body line.
But then that could end up being a trade. That could be a Wiggins.
No, I don't think if you take in Ingram, you keep him. You don't trade a guy like that.
Cleveland did it with Wiggins.
Well, how did that turn out? It's not turning out
Minnesota
that well.
got him.
Kind of regretting it. well, Minnesota got him. They're not giving him away. But anyways, I think Tom Thibodeau really has to keep it careful here. I think he's just going to select a guard. I think it's going to be Murray or Dunn if they're going to stay in that position.
Right.
But other than that, I think Minnesota's in a really good position and all that. But he's got to fill up a bunch of assistant coaches. I think he contacted Monty Williams too, so to come and coach over there. That'd be great because he was really good at developing Anthony Davis over there. And OKC guy too.
Yes.
You never know.
Speaking of OKC guys, Scott Brooks to Washington, part of the GoFundMe Kevin Durant, maybe. Yeah.
And it's also a solid enough coach.
Oh
to
yeah,
help
of
out Washington.
course,
because he's been there. I think he gets them back in the playoffs. Only
Yeah,
problem was
they need a
they
big
didn't
man.
get their pick, though.
They need a big man.
They gave up their pick to Phoenix.
Right.
So we'll see that happen. Okay, we'll be back soon for one more segment. We're going to be doing a Kershaw-Arrieta segment. Who would you take if Game 7 of the World Series was today? Big Dance, we'll be back.